Okay, so this is all the science associated with it, and I just want you to know that plants need this stuff to grow. It needs food, and these are the nutrients that it needs. All this stuff is prevalent in our soils, and of course we have air, so you don't have to worry about those things. What you need to worry about is these 6 elements. And when you go to the store, you'll see this 3 numbers every time, right? On every fertilizer pack. That's these 3: nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium. And these other 3 are micronutrients that generally you don't have to worry about too much. A lot of these packs that focus on these 3 will also have traces of these elements. Except sulfur is something really big here in Utah that we have to concentrate on for a reason we'll discuss in a minute. So optimum for our soils, 16-16-8, and we'll go over this. So if you see in the store, you'll see almost every store has it 16-16-8 because they know it's good for our soils. That's what we need. This 20-00 happens to be pure nitrogen. I shouldn't say pure, but it's only nitrogen, right? And on this schedule, you'll see to feed it nitrogen. So as we move on, I'll explain more in depth on this, but I just wanted you to be familiar with this. Okay, so this is our biggest problem in Utah is the pH. Everywhere in Spanish Fork is going to be about 8. You can test your soils and you're going to get 8.1 or 7.9, but it's going to be about an 8 pH. And as you learned in school, 7 is neutral, anything under is acidic, anything over is alkaline. So plants want it between 6 and 7, and we have 8. And what happens if the pH is too high, too alkaline, then the roots cannot absorb the nutrients that they need. It won't get the iron, it won't get the zinc, it just can't absorb it. So you need to bring that pH down. In Washington, where I used to live, it was the opposite problem. It was way too acidic, and so we'd actually throw lime in the soil to boost it up to be more alkaline. Here we have the limestone just all around us, and that's why it's constantly raising our pH. As it rains, it's raising your pH because of all the lime in the water, and the nitrogen and all the elements that helps to make it a lower pH gets washed out. So you're constantly battling this problem. That's why we struggle with growing like blueberries. Blueberries want like 4.5. And so you're just not going to grow blueberries here in Utah unless you work that soil over constantly. I would suggest don't even try blueberries here. It's not worth trying because you're just not going to be successful. Strawberries, 5.5. You're going to have to work on that to get it down. You can generally get your soil 5.5, but any lower than that is so hard. So way we lower pH is through organic material. That compost we're throwing in there, that's a great way to lower the pH. Every time you're throwing in organic material, every time you're throwing in nitrogen, you're lowering the pH. But it's going to keep going back up every time you water. So sulfur is another great way to lower the pH. And this is what you do at the beginning of the year. They sell this at IFA. They sell this at many places. As you can see, elemental sulfur, S. This isn't that dusting sulfur. This is elemental sulfur, S. And what this does is you put it in the soil, and it works with all the water and everything, and it turns into sulfuric acid. That's what we want. We want it to bring it more acidic. So what I do when I do my fertilizer at the beginning of the year, I put a complete fertilizer in. You only need to do this once a year, right before you plant. You can do this on the day of planting if you want. You want to take your 16-16-8 that we discussed, nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, and some trace elements. You want to buy some ironite. This is going to help with the iron and zinc that we talked about. And then you want to put some sulfur in. So you mix this all up, and here are the parts. 3 parts 16-16-8, 1 part ironite. And then whatever you have there, let's say you did 3/4 of a cup 16-16-8 and 1/4 of a cup ironite, that's 1 cup, right? You're going to take then 1 cup of sulfur, throw that in. So now you have 2 cups of mix. Half of it's been sulfur, 3/8 is 16-16-8, and 1/8 is ironite. This is a complete fertilizer you're going to throw in your garden right before you plant. This will last all year. The sulfur is something you're only going to do once a year to just continually try to bring down that pH. The only other thing you will need to do, generally, 98% of the time after that, is with your nitrogen, and we'll go over that in just a minute. This is really important to do every year before you plant. Because And mix it in, yes. So the application rate, 1 quart per 180 square feet. When I was learning from Gordon Wells, he would say like you're salting a steak. So just imagine you've got your plot of land and you're just kind of salting it, right? It's not too thick, not too thin.